Thank you for the lovely introduction. So I knew when I was coming here that I was probably at risk of walking into an empty room. Uh, this changed yesterday. I was supposed to be on a slightly different panel where we're talking about taking businesses global. We're talking about the wow factor. But when I heard of this session, I thought that while we have a lot of dignitaries who can talk about successful businesses, and they probably have more to add than me because, well, we're not as successful as we want to be or some as big as some of the other guys. But WoodFeather has a story, and I thought that even if maybe one or two or three people in this room, I can share that story with and probably nudge them, talking about how I came about WoodFeather. I think there's some value here. So I requested the guys at D2C to put me on this session where I could probably add a little more value with my story. So first up, WoodFeather, it could take me 30 minutes to explain what we do, but I'm going to request for a short AV, it's less than a minute, to tell you what WoodFeather is and what we make, because it's rather unique. You've not heard of anything or anybody like us. Can we have the first AV? Thank you. So we make airplane propellers. These are back in the day when you had engines in front of airplanes where the propeller blades will go round and round real fast to make the plane to give it thrust to fly. I make airplane propellers out of solid wood for decor, not to put them on a real plane. And one would wonder why. Why would somebody do something as bizarre, something unheard of like this? So I'm a passionate aviator. I'm also a private pilot because I love to fly for a hobby. But how WoodFeather came about is a really, really interesting story. So when I was building my house about 7 years ago, I wanted to put a propeller in my house because as an aviator, you want something from a plane, right? So you don't get anything like this side of the world. I ordered one on a marketplace in the US. It's very expensive to ship because these things are huge. They're 6 feet in size. I waited 3 months, and the shipment was lost in transit, right? So after having waited 3 months, having paid hundreds of dollars, I realized I could not have a propeller in my house. So I have no background, by the way, in woodworking or craftsmanship or anything like that. I'm a marketing guy. I've been in media marketing for the last 20-odd years. I said, let me just take a log of wood and see what I can do with it. So before going to office every morning, अपने नीचे building की टांकी होती है ना जहाँ पे garden में, I would take this log, sand it, polish it, do some random things with it, an hour before I left for office, maybe 20 minutes, 15 minutes. And one fine day, I remember on the neighboring building, there's a balcony, and there's an old man who used to come there every morning. And one day, I think a month later, he yelled out to me. He said, "Beta, helicopter ka pankha bana rahe ho kya?" I knew I was on the right track. I knew I was creating something which looked remotely like a propeller. Anyway, very ugly piece, looks very shabby. I don't know how to do this. I put it up in my house, in my living room. Friends start coming in for housewarming parties and stuff like that. And they say, "This is interesting. Ye kaise banaya tune? Yara, whatever." So I said, okay, people seem to be interested in my craft. Let me see if I can do something better with this. For the next 1 year, every weekend, I would go and meet craftsmen who actually worked with wood, understanding different woods, actually understanding the airfoils of the propellers, the curvatures, and all of that, to figure out ye hota kaise. And at the end of 1 year, I made such small pieces, just like for fun. And I had a friend who had a lovely store in Khar. So she said, "Akshay, why don't you do a little tea and coffee at my place in the evening and show your friends what you've been doing?" So I put up about 10 of those pieces at a store in Khar, but purely for friends and family. It was not a commercial event. We were not selling any of these. These were just things that I was making out of hobby or passion. And from the other customers who came to the store that evening, bulk of my stuff was sold out. They came and said, "How much are you selling this for?" I didn't have a price. I said, "No, I was just doing this for fun." Anyway, To cut the long story short, I thought there's potential here. I said, okay, maybe there's people like me who like to have something quirky in their living room, because an airplane propeller, people walk in, they say, wow, this is so cool, ye kya hai? It starts a conversation. That's what people want. Because, those paintings and marble ke ghode, or kaach ke hathi, there's been enough of that in living rooms already. So people want a conversation starter. So I said, let me try and do this well. I set up WoodFeather with no experience, nothing whatsoever, and just try to perfect my craft every single week. What we've reached, what you see here today, we are one of the most coveted aviation decor brands, not just in India, but in the world. We're the only guys who do this, and the only guys who do it to this kind of perfection. Today, the propellers we make, after 4 collections, it's very hard for anybody in the world to offer this kind of a finish, or this kind of a product, or this kind of a design. But the important part here is that it started with a lost shipment. That's literally what it was. It was not an opportunity. Normally, as marketeers, we would say, you need a need gap, a market opening, a customer need, you need to have a strategy, entry strategy, exit strategy, how are you going to get to the market, how are you going to capture, all of that, which is perhaps true. But in a case like this, there was absolutely nothing. There was no market research, there was no need gap, there was no category like this, but we managed to create something out of pure love and passion and of a lost shipment. Now, WoodFeather has been around for 4 years, but last year something spectacular happened to us. Even better than all of this. Okay, anybody here from the 70s? Any 70s kids here? Anybody born in the 70s? Couple of us? 80s? Okay. Has anybody heard of this movie called Top Gun, which had Tom Cruise in it as Maverick, the fighter pilot? Hands up, anybody? Okay, so few of us know, great. So in 1986, there was a film called Top Gun, which starred Tom Cruise when he was really young, and he was playing a fighter pilot called Maverick. It is by far the most iconic brand in aviation because that film shaped the future of aviation and aviation fandom for the next 36 years, right? Everybody who grew up, suddenly Top Gun and Maverick and his lines, I feel the need for speed, and all of that just became, it became pop culture. It was that huge. 36 years later, which is in May of this year, Top Gun is coming with a sequel with Tom Cruise as Maverick. Next month, the film is going to release. The sequel is coming after 36 years. Again, Tom Cruise back as Maverick. When they released the trailer of this film 2 years ago, I said to myself, I've been a Top Gun fan all my life. I've heard that theme music of Top Gun, even the song, You Take My Breath Away is from the same movie, by the way. You must watch it if you haven't already, the first one. And I said, Top Gun aa rahi hai yaar, wapas. I mean, it's a film I've grown up on. I love this brand. And as a person who makes propellers, if there was one way I could associate myself with Top Gun, could that be a chance for me to make a Top Gun propeller? Now, this was a bizarre dream, a workshop in Andheri, and you're talking about Tom Cruise and his most iconic film, and a franchise after 36 years. I knew I was kidding myself when I even thought of it. Okay, how is this, literally this homegrown brand from Andheri, Mumbai, ever going to go to Paramount Studios in Hollywood, get the attention of Tom Cruise, because he's like the Amir Khan of Hollywood. He wants to sign off on everything, that touches his film or touches his brand. How am I ever going to make it happen? But I kid you not, I did everything in the book, and, I may have had countless sleepless nights thinking of how the hell am I going to get this idea to Tom Cruise. Should I tweet to him 20 times a day, but he's not active? Should I, tag him on all Insta posts, make a sample, do this, do that? How will I get through to him? I tried everything in the book. And let me tell you something, that as a person who loves aviation, and as somebody who swears by Top Gun, and anybody here who's a fan of aviation, even remotely, or a fan of Tom Cruise, knows how important Top Gun is in our lives, this actually happened. Can I have the next AV, please? It still gives me goosebumps. I've made this promo, I've seen it 100 times. But the fact that my little homegrown dream today shares a platform with Top Gun, the film I've dreamt of and idolized, and Tom Cruise personally has okayed my design, says, I love this idea, doesn't matter how much money we make. They may be licensing with the Walmarts of the world. This may not make $1 for them, but they love it. And for me, as an entrepreneur, I think nothing gives me more happiness. No bottom lines, no top lines can give you the kind of joy that something like this can give you. So, well, that's my story. I know I'm out of time here, but I just wanted to share that, without any market research, without any insights, without strategies, we managed to pull this off. We managed to pull off WoodFeather. It's growing with every passing day. We managed to pull off the biggest association in the aviation space, and that is my story. Thank you for having me.